Next, let's talk about arcs and circles and related things like fillet and dimensioning those features. Before we get started, however, very often you need to use the units command, and you can just type UN for units. And if you want to enter inches, fractions of an inch, or architectural units, you need to be able to choose architectural if you want foot inch dimensions, and if you want to enter fractions of an inch, you'll need to use fractional. I'm going to use architectural, and you'll see the dimensions in the status line in inches and feet. For most architectural work, you're going to need that. So, to draw arcs, there are 11 possible ways of drawing arcs, and there's a large button on the Home tab in the Draw panel for arcs. It's a split button, and the top button is the way it was drawn last. And then the bottom button allows you to pick all the different options. Now, you do not need to use these buttons to draw arcs. You can use the command line options as they come up, but in this case, this is saving a little bit of time because you make the decision about how you want to draw the arc first, and then the mechanics of entering the command options are done for you instead of you having to type them or pick them. So first, let's do the start and the second point and the end point. So start, second, and end would be the 3-point option. So if I do that, I pick start and the second point and then the end point. Now, don't actually pick the last point when you do it yourself until you have a chance to kind of fiddle with it and get a feeling for how many different ways you can draw the arcs. And you can draw practically a full circle, but you cannot draw a full circle with the arc command. You can draw a full circle starting with the arc command and then using the join command, but you can't draw a 360-degree arc. The next one would be start, center, end. So start, center, end is the next one on the list here, and I pick the start of the arc first, and then instead of picking a second point, I'm picking the center point. And then this is going to fix the radius, so the radius will not be adjustable. And notice that as I draw, the arc is always going to be drawn counterclockwise. Whereas if I draw even just a little bit down, it draws almost a 360-degree arc, but it's always going to draw counterclockwise from the start point. The next one is start, center, angle. So picking from the bottom button, pick start, center, angle. So here's the start. This time I'm going to draw it on the left, and here's the center. And again, it's always going to draw the arc counterclockwise with this method. And I could enter a number, and the number would be the angle of the arc. Now, what is the angle of the arc? Let's say 90 degrees. What does that mean to you? Well, if I drew a line from the center, in this case I'm going to show you how to snap, shift right click, center of that arc, and you just point to the arc and it locks onto the center. And then if I draw using the endpoint snap, which is shift, and then I'm sorry about that, it's off your screen, endpoint, and then shift, endpoint, shift right click, endpoint, and then shift right click, endpoint, and I'll just delete that line. There's a 90-degree angular difference between the center and the start and the center and the end. So if I dimension the angle, and I probably want to use the angular dimension here, from between those two lines, that angular dimension is 90 degrees. Next, start center length. What does that mean? Well, the start center length is the length of the distance between the start point and the end point. It is not the length of the arc. So here's the start, here's the end, and here's the length. Now, you can only draw but so long. Notice that it just stops drawing the arc, whereas I can't enter a length that is twice the distance between the 2 points I've already picked. So I pick the start and then I pick the center, so that sets the radius. The length can't be more than twice the radius. Now this is kind of a less used option. I don't often use the start center length option. But let's find out what that length means. So let's go, instead of having to right click on the snap, let's go to the Object Snap menu here, where you can just type OSnap and turn it on, and then use the little down arrow here and make sure that the endpoint is on, and the some of the other snaps that might be relevant to arcs, like tangent and quadrant and intersection and perpendicular and center. So let's find out what the distance is here between the end point here and the end point there. Now I didn't enter a particular distance, so we really can't deal with it. So let's actually enter a specific distance. So I'm going to pick 2 points. I'm going to enter 10 for the length. So now we know that the length should be 10. What's it going to be when I try to dimension the distance between those endpoints? Wow, it's 10. Now, how long is the arc? What is the arc length? To get that, I dimension with the arc length command, and the arc length is 12. So don't confuse yourself with the length of the arc, the start center length of chord being the length of the arc. The length of this arc is more than the length of the chord, and it will always be more than the length of the chord. Another way to do it is start center angle. So start end angle. Start, end, and angle. So I can make it, I can't make it exactly 0, because if I made it 0, it would be a straight line, it would not be an arc. And the biggest I can make it is 360. So as I get close here, I can get close to 360. I can get to being almost a full circle, but I can't get it exactly being a full circle. Now I don't use this a whole lot, but if you wanted to create wiring jumps and you always wanted to use very shallow arcs, you could use this technique. For example, I could just enter 30 degrees, and that would be a nice, even, lazy jump, practically almost a straight line when I'm connecting 2 items with a diagrammatic arc. If next topic is start, end, direction. So if I start and I end, I can set the starting direction. And in this case, I might want to draw exactly half a circle. To do that, I would just turn ortho on and go straight up. Now, assuming that these points were also related next to each other horizontally, I know that this starting direction of this arc is straight up. Let's try that both point picks with ortho on. So if I pick arc, notice that I'm not restricted with ortho on to drawing directly to the left. But I also have the snap running at a ½ an inch. And so the snap can allow me to do it, or I can key in a distance like -3, or I can use the dynamic cursor to get an exact distance, and then go straight up with ortho running, and here ortho is listened to, and that would be exactly half an arc. Start, end, radius. Now instead of using the home tab, I'm going to actually do that with the arc command. So I'm just going to type arc and look at the prompt. It says start point, so I pick start, and then I use the end point snap, and then I pick the end, and then I enter the radius. Well, I can pick angle, direction, or radius. So it's asking me for the center point. So I don't want to enter the center point, so I enter the radius. So as I enter the radius, I can't make it but so small, I can't make it less than half the distance between the 2 points I've already picked. Center, start, end. Center, start, end. So I pick the center first, the start, and the end. I do that a lot when I'm drawing doors, door swings. here's a door swing. Let's do that center, start, end. Center, start, end. Now I've got ortho on, so it's going to end with this 90-degree door fine. But what if I also wanted to show that the swing could extend past 90 degrees? Because most doors can open more than 90 degrees. The door swing does not have to stop at the door. Center, start, angle. It's very similar. Center, start, angle. Center, start. And again, ortho's not listening to me here, so I might want to just turn, I will make sure that snap's running if you want it straight to the right, and then I can enter any angle. So I can enter a 90-degree angle or a 180-degree angle, and I can get exactly a half a circle. Center, start, length of chord should be similar. I'm not going to go through that. Let's try an arc with a continue option. Well, in order to draw an arc with a continue option, you have to connect to an arc that's already been drawn. So let's just draw an arc to start with using whatever the default is, and I'm going to use the 3-point arc. And then arc, continue, hit the enter key, and notice that the continued arc, I just hit the enter key for the first point of the arc, and it will automatically make that arc tangent to the arc before. If I hit the arc, hit the space bar to restart the arc command, and then hit the enter or the space bar for the first point pick, it connects and continues that arc to maintain tangency. So I'm just picking one point, and that's the end point. The arc continue option is the same as the line continue option. So if I hit the line command and then hit the enter key for the first point, the direction of that line will be fixed to be tangent to the arc before it. And that can be very handy. If I just drew a line and I start the arc command and hit the enter key, the arc will be tangent to the last line. So what about circles? Well, the default, if I just type circle, and in this case this demonstrates the default in this, if you've never drawn a circle before, is center and radius. So I pick a center point and then I pick a radius. Now this radius is going to be 6 inches. If I did center diameter, I pick a center point and let's say under the same distance. Well, that circle is going to be half the size of a 6-inch radius circle. I can also pick 2 points. Pick, pick. Now this is going to establish the distance between these 2 points is going to establish the diameter, but you get to pick that distance in any direction. And 3-point. The 3-point option, and again, you don't have to pick this. You can just use the command options as they apply. And the command option here is 3P. So it automatically typed 3P for me. So I pick 3 points, and a circle can be drawn through any set of 3 points. Tangent radius requires that I may have some other objects around. So let's draw a circle tangent to these 2 lines. So circle, tangent radius. I pick this. Notice the tangent symbol is automatically being entered, tangent to here, and then pick a radius, let's say 6 inches. I could do the same thing here. Hit the repeating the circle command, however, will not run this exactly. So if you want to repeat any one of these options that with the commands that you have here, you have to repick the top button in order to get the same results. Now if you want to repeat, just hit the space bar to repeat the circle. You have to type the T option and then pick to get it. Now AutoCAD remembers the radius, the last size of the circle, so you can just hit the space bar for the last object. and it will automatically make sure that the circle is drawn that big. In some cases, you may want to use the tangent, tangent, tangent option, which allows you to fit the circle into a certain space as large as it can be. So the last one down here is tangent, tangent, tangent. So pick three tangent points, and the circle will be drawn to exactly touch those objects. Now, if I draw a line from the circle, I hover over the circle, and I go down near the circle center point, and I go perpendicular, type PER, perpendicular. That point and the tangent point are the same point. So I'm sorry it's not working very well. It doesn't always appear when you regenerate to be a point. It may look like a gap, but that's just because AutoCAD's trying to make things work fast and make it appear right. And if you zoom in and zoom in and zoom in, it will regenerate. You can regenerate the drawing and realize that these things are the same points. So I guess that's all the different ways you can make the circle and the arc with those two commands. And finally, the last thing would be the fillet command, and that's found here. This is on a combo button between fillet, chamfer, and blend curve. So I pick fillet, and I set a radius. Let's type radius first. Let's set a 6-inch radius, and then I have a polyline option. This is a polyline, and I can put a circle radius on 4. I can round off the corners, and that would be my way of drawing arcs quickly without having to draw them individually. Now, if I tried to do the same thing on this rectangle, it wouldn't work. So if I go polyline, you notice it has a can't do symbol or do not enter symbol. It means it can't fillet that line because this segment's too short. So the fillet radius can't be more than half the length of the shortest segment. So it automatically knows what will work and what won't work. So if I wanted to reset it, I would just set the radius to maybe 1 inch, and now it will work. The distance between these two, this is a rectangle, so if I measure the distance between here and here, for this particular rectangle, the largest radius would be 1.5 inches. So I did fillet, and then radius 1.5, and then polyline, P for polyline, then that's going to give me a slot. Thanks for your attention.